Alright, you guys, welcome back to another video. And today I want to cover some of the updates that's coming to Star Citizen. And I wanted to combine all of these things into one big video. So without further ado, let's get right into these updates. Okay, and the first screenshot that I want to take a look at is this one right here. It shows us a pretty good image of the size and the scale of the Zeus and the player walking up to the front ladder. This is a great addition. I feel like more ships absolutely need to have this. Ships like the C1, especially the MSR, no running through the ship. You just go to the ladder, go straight up inside to the cockpit. I love that. Okay, so the next thing that we have here is the view out of the pilot seat. Okay, so what I really like what they did here is that they have kind of raised the pilot seat over the center split of the canopy, whereas in the Constellation this would be kind of more up here in the center of your view. So in the Zeus it's a little bit lower, so you do get a better view of that horizon, where the horizon should be, closer to the center of your view than the split in the canopy here. So I really like that. There's also no crossbar here, so you get one large piece of continuous glass and you don't have to worry about a bar going across your view. This is a very good design. I think that CIG kind of learned from that. The next thing is the undermount gun. Now this is the remote turret on the Zeus. This is retractable. Now a lot of people might say that this is really cool looking, but it doesn't really have a lot of functionality. In reality, this is great. I really do like to see retractable remote turrets, because then you don't have to worry about clearances. Okay, a lot of times you might be too close to the ground, your landing gear might not be down, and the bottom turret falls off or gets blown off or gets hit, you lose a gun. If you can retract this stuff when you're not in combat, when you're in nav mode or something, you can have this retracted up and you won't have to worry about your guns falling off or losing guns or hitting the ground or scraping anything. Because remember, at the end of the day, this is a spaceship. You're going to be landing on uneven terrain. Sometimes your guns might touch the ground and you don't want them to blow off. You don't want them to fall off. So being able to retract this up in the ship is always a great feature. I love to see it. The next thing is the exterior of the Zeuses. Now, some of you might remember in the concept artwork, there was kind of what looked like a window here on this side. It seems like that they've covered that with a panel. I don't really have a problem with this, but we'll see a little bit later what they put in this area. But we still have the panel on this side. This is going to be your kitchen habitation area, and there's a couple more features that we'll see in more images over on this side, what this little screen here is. Then we have the back ramp of the ES, and what I think is interesting about this picture is that we can see the fuel port over here in the back. So again, there will be ground fuel options. You're not going to be using this fuel port to refuel with something like the Starfield, but when you're landed, more than likely this is where you'll be refueling your ship from, which is pretty interesting. We're seeing this on more newer ships, and the Zeus has it right here at the back. Then we have the interior cargo area of the ES, and you have a lot of your larger components back here. You have a fire extinguisher, and what is interesting about this photo is that we can see here that there is a clear view screen to the additional fuel tank that the ES has. So this big thing right here, this big gray thing, this is the ES's additional fuel tank. So it has a longer range than the CL and the other Zeus variants. So this is pretty cool. You'll be able to see this from your cargo room. And we zoom in a little bit closer to the back of the CL. You can see here it does not have the additional fuel tank. It does have the fire extinguisher, but it also has this railing here. The separation between the door entrance and the cargo area, and you can see there is a lot more space back here for more cargo. It's a deeper space, so it can fit those 32 SU full-size boxes. So here's a good view of the cargo area. You could see you could fit two 32 SU boxes, and it comes right up to the railing right here. This is kind of the doorway entry, the door platform. And you have space on the side here to access your components. Now, originally CIG said that the cargo would be blocking this, But what's really nice here is that they were able to widen it up a little bit more, so you can still access your components with the cargo fully loaded up. But one thing that's interesting here is that you can't really exit the back of the ship with the cargo fully loaded up. Luckily, the Zeus does have a a ladder at the front and an airlock, but yeah, you can't get to the door with this thing fully loaded up. So that's also really interesting. Then we have a picture of the exterior here. So this panel that I want to talk about, this is kind of a door control pad, and you can see here that's marked airlock. So this panel moves away when you interact with this door panel, and you have access to the airlock. So there is kind of a space between the interior door and this exterior panel where uh, the the atmosphere is sealed off between the interior and the exterior ship. I really like that a lot. This may be one of the smallest ships with an airlock. I know the 400i has it. Very similar, where you walk in, you have suit lockers, you have the airlock. Um, so yeah, this is probably one of the smallest ship with docking capabilities. So that's going to be really interesting to be able to dock with larger ships, perhaps ships like the Galaxy, ships like the Polaris, without having to EVA. Again, I don't know entirely how necessary that gameplay is going to be, because especially now EVA feels a lot better, but it's definitely nice to have depending on what this airlock gameplay is going to look like. Then we have the bottom of the ship here, and you can see the retractable um, gun turret here. But what's interesting about this photo is if we zoom in, we can see here that it says escape pod. Okay, so there are two escape pods here, one on this side and one on that side. And uh, if you think about what's above these two openings, it's the beds. So just like in the C1, you get into the bed and then the escape pod shoots up from the bottom of the ship. So now you're probably thinking, wait a minute, now it makes sense why they removed the window, because they have this section, this bed as an escape pod, and instead of worrying about the metrics and getting that all to work, they can make that module in there, and they just need to create a system to have the escape pods jettison out. So yeah, the beds are the escape pods, and they're going to come out from the bottom of the ship right here. So that's very cool and very interesting. Then we have an image of the tractor beam on the CL. So it looks like this is going to be nicely articulated here. So you're going to have this point up here and this point over here, and then another point at the head. And in this image, you could see it swivels all the way around to put the cargo in the back of the CL. Looks like it's going to have a really good range of motion. I like this a lot. Then we have the cockpit here. We're starting to go into the interior. This is from the pilot seat. You could see the two co-pilot seats. You could see the gun rack here, some components there. It's looking really cool so far. This is the gun racks. It looks like you have 3 slots for 3 full-size weapons and 3 pistols. 1 for each member of the crew on the bridge, the captain, the gunner, and the co-pilot. And you can see the controls here. This is really nicely laid out. I think CAG did a good job on this. All of these buttons are nicely labeled to what they might be in real life. And I think that makes sense because CAG wants to move to a system where the player physically reaches out and presses a button. So these will need to be accurately labeled and represented, so then when the player character goes to press shields, they actually press the shields button. So right now, we kind of have some cockpits and some interiors that don't have button layout out in the right areas, or might be kind of hard for the player character to reach in an animation. So some cockpits might have to be reworked, but since the Zeus is a brand new ship, they're doing it right from the beginning. So they have all these buttons nicely laid out. So once they do bring in those cockpit animations, the player can just reach out and interact with everything that they see. That's really cool, and I like that a lot. Then this is a really cool picture, something that I wasn't expecting at all. You can see that there's a glass floor beneath the co-pilot and the gunner seat where you have the missiles. So as you fire the missiles, you could see them going out of the bottom of your feet. So this is the pilot seat turned around, and you can see the co-pilot and gunner seats right there. Very cool little attention to detail. Then we go into the airlock and engineering area. So you can see we've got the suit lockers here. We have 3 for each of the crew members, and we have the airlock door here is a circular airlock like that on the Corsair and the 400i, and it opens up to the larger engineering area. And so in the larger engineering area, you have 4 large component doors here, your engineering screen, your fire extinguisher. It's important to have a fire extinguisher in this area if a component overheats or something like that. Then you have the entry ladder. So you're going to be coming up this ladder and going straight to the cockpit, or you can go straight back to habitation, which is behind this door. Okay. But what I think is really interesting about this ladder that you can see here that I'm kind of blocking is that it's kind of just open to outside. So if you were to open this ladder out in the vacuum of space, this room would depressurize. This ladder is not in its own airlocked area. What CIG said is that initially they thought of having another door in this area, but they wanted to open it up so there were less doors, because the player base does kind of somewhat like having less doors or doors open more often, so they don't have to access a bunch of panels or wait for the automatic doors to open every time. It does become kind of a pain to deal with. So this kind of streamlines it, and you don't really need to use this ladder in EVA if you want to EVA from the ship, because you have the airlock. So you don't have to worry about depressurizing this room. You can just use the airlock if you want to EVA. So it kind of makes sense for them to get rid of that door. Just know that don't use this ladder when you're in space. Use the airlock. Then we have the engineering screen opened up here. You can see your 2 medium shields. You do have more shields in the cargo area. You'll have the battery and I believe life support right over here. Then you have your fuses, 2 fuses up here, and the engineering terminal itself. These are probably the 2 main fuses that takes the power from the engineering terminal that allows you to control the other areas. And that's very cool. And the buttons here to unlock the component doors. Then we walk back through that main door from the engineering area to the habitation. And this is the habitation area on the ES. So you can see there's a gun rack here, there's the kitchen here, there's a window from the kitchen to the hallway, and then there's the door to the bedroom area and the door back to the cargo area. And in the kitchen, you have a lot of storage space, and of course the window. But what I really like about this is that in a lot of other Star Citizen ships, there is a lot of set dressings. You have ketchup and mustard bottles, you have cookie jars and that type of stuff. And CIG, what they've said is that they're going to start getting rid of all that stuff and just making it clean and empty so that we can put our items on these shelves. So in past ships, there's a lot of unnecessary set dressings that we can't interact with. That is going the way of the dodo bird. They're making it clean and a blank slate so that we can decorate these spaces ourselves. Then on the ES again, you have a couch in this room, a little entry area, a little shelf here, the RSI logo. You know, I really enjoy the interior of the MSR, being able to sit down while you're in quantum. This is going to be a great area for that. You go into quantum, you get out of the cockpit, you sit back here on your Moby Glass doing whatever you have to do. It's very immersive. It makes you feel like, hey, I can take this ship camping. I can do an off-grid series in this, so off-grid gameplay. That's a lot of fun. A lot of people like doing that. They like this to be their home away from home. Having that couch in here kind of gives you that feeling, that sensibility. The interior of the ship is very nice. I mean, the Constellation is supposed to be a step above this, but this has a much nicer interior in my opinion than a Constellation. But let's keep going. Then we have the kitchen on the CL, and you can see where they kind of needed to shave off space. Instead of having that turned alcove over here, it just goes straight across, and you kind of lose that window into the hallway. And then over here, they had to move the gun rack from the hallway um into the cargo area on the CL. And in the bedroom, instead of the couch, you just kind of have the RSI logo. Okay, now let's take a look at the MFD update. Now, we have 5 different MFD types, and we're going to go over all of them. This first one is Aegis. Now, this design is kind of like a blue multicolored. It is a bit militaristic. It is sleek. I like this kind of flat design, this UX design that they're going with now. It looks very modern. It looks like, a high AAA game. I like it a lot. So this is Aegis. This is Anvil. Anvil is a bit more green. I like it. It's not the best looking. I feel like this green, could get annoying after a while, but it is, again, very sleek and very clean looking. Then we have Drake. I like this a lot. A lot of people like the green that Drake had, but I think this looks a little bit more retro. This looks a little bit more in keeping with Drake's style. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I kind of like this yellowish kind of color, and the style that they went here for the actual HUD. And we have Argo. Argo, they went with a yellow. A lot of people like this, instead of orange or anything like that. Again, I think it's really easy to read. It matches within Argo's style, but you can also kind of see from this what ships we might be able to fly in Squadron 42, because the MPV is supposed to be kind of like a snub fit ship for the Idris. Then all the other ships have this kind of blue and yellow and orange, and what they said is that they will be adding to the list over time. Okay, so then we have your MFD screens themselves, the different types of MFDs that you can cycle through. We have 5 different styles, and we have 9 different screens. So the first one is your self status. You have different information like your weapons group, gimbal, power, shields, that type of stuff. This is your self status screen like you have now. This also gets cast to your helmet, so you can see it in your HUD no matter where you turn your head. Then we have more. Then here's just a deeper look. Then we have the target status. Okay, this is kind of like it has in the game now. And this can also be cast to your helmet. Then we have the weapons config. This is pretty interesting. This allows you to choose different weapons groups for different triggers on your stick or as you're firing on your mouse. This is a welcome change, really cool for ships like we see here, the F7A Hornet, and of course the F8. These ships have a lot of guns, and configuring these different weapons groups is good if you have different speed ammo and you want to create different weapons group for these different weapons. Like if you have cannons or NG weapons or Gatlings or something like that, you can fire them each in a group and not have different different ammo accelerations, kind of messing with things. Then we have shields. This allows you to put a different amount of power in different shield faces depending on how many shield faces you have. You can see different status in here as well. Everything pertaining to shields in this screen. And this is the scanning MFD. This is basically where we're going to have a little bit more information here. So you have your QT, your radar, when you're scanning someone, you can see here. So then we have a scanning screen. You get a lot of information on this screen from, any other ship that you're seeing here. So they have a little Easter egg here. They have the Polaris in game. So this person is scanning the Polaris. It's nice to see that in game. Again, hopefully it's ready for CitizenCon or IE this year. Then we have power management. Okay, this is new. Instead of the power triangle, we're going to have, kind of these different levels that we can choose for different things. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit more granularity, and kind of what they said is going to be very similar to, how we are able to key bind different things right now. We'll be able to set that up for this screen here as well. I think this is really exciting. There are going to be different things that we're going to be able to manage that is not just the power triangle. This is kind of like a mini version of the engineering screen. It's going to be especially good for smaller ships that don't have a dedicated engineering area. And then this is kind of interesting. We have diagnostics. Again, this is kind of like an extension of an engineering screen because it allows us to see the health of different components and do different things to it. So you can see errors, critical damage. This person has two bad components here. You can see the names of these things, and they're color coded too. So if it's healthy, it'll be green. If it's kind of on its last leg, it'll be yellow. If it is damaged, it will be red. So by just, glancing over, you'll be able to see the health of your components very easily. Then here we have the configuration screen. This is probably one of the most exciting MFD screens in this update. This gives us the ability to set things that we normally set in the in-game settings. Finally, these settings will be put in our ship. So you can see here, we can toggle the display cast. So this is the MFD being cast to our helmet here. You can see on the side. You can do IFCS coupled mode, auto gravity compensation, G-safe. All of these things that were previously in the game menu settings is now in our ship. So we can change lag, lead, pip on the fly in the screen, fight to see the difference, to get better. All of this stuff is a very welcome change. So I'm very excited about this screen here. I think this is definitely more new player friendly because a lot of those settings get buried in the menu. Having it here on an MFD kind of just gives the player the ability to play around with some of these things to see what they like the best. So I really like that. And then we have an image here of the precision targeting mode. And here is a better view of what that kind of radar looks like. So your radar will be up here in the middle, and you will kind of see other players flying in and around you. So you see the player there, and here's the caterpillar on the side of it. Very cool stuff. And now I want to go over Star Citizen Live. And as you can see, right behind me right here, you got Jared's beautiful shaven face staring deep into your soul as a background image. I'm not going to react to Star Citizen Live directly, but I'm going to go over the questions and the answers that they give in kind of a more congested version. So let me pull that up real quick. Now, okay, let's go over this. What happened to the item drawer? This is the first question. Well, this is not the first question. Let me correct myself. This is, I believe, the second question. Okay, it was never really supposed to be a terminal. Okay, that was kind of something that they added in to make things more cohesive with the cargo freight elevators. They initially planned it to just kind of be a point of interaction where you open up your inventory. So that's what they ended up releasing with, but they are working on it. Personally, I like the terminal screen. All I wanted from the system was a quick equip button, a button that you would press that allows you to immediately have that item placed on your character. The problem that I had with these terminals was the drawer. not the terminal screen. I think the terminal screen is good. It is more immersive than this third person drop stuff on your character stuff. Uh, so I hope they bring back the terminal, but I hope they don't bring back the drawer. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are we going to have more room to park ships and vehicles on the side of hangars? This was a three-part question where uh, they also asked, are there any other plans to add side rooms to persistent hangars? And can they clean up some of the set dressing? And the answer to all these questions was yes. Hangars will be modular, so you'll be able to choose different things about the hangars. And they won't have set dressings in them because, again, they'll be modular, so you will decide what goes in them. This is just tier 0 of personal hangars, where they essentially just gave us regular hangars that persist for us. But in the future, persistent hangars will be customizable. Okay. Similar to that question is the freight elevators are positioned kind of awkwardly in the hangars. Is there any plan to rearrange them, move where the elevators are so you can just fly and back straight in if you want? Because right now, what a lot of cargo runners are doing is turning at an angle. Personally, I don't have a problem with that because as a truck driver, you back into the dock to offload your tractor trailer. All truck drivers have to back in and park in certain ways. Uh, Parking at different angles to uh, unload and load is a part of being a truck driver or doing trucking. So I do like turning my ship around to back up to the elevator. I feel like it's very immersive and it, enhances the space trucker role play that I like doing. So um again, different things for different people. Some people see it as a bad design. I don't. Personally, I think that, even if I had a modular hangar, I would still set it up that way so I can back up to it. It doesn't matter. Everybody is going to have their hangar laid out differently. And I do like that. But basically, again, what they said is that, yes, there will be modular so we can decide where the elevator goes. Are there plans for the station cargo decks to play a role in cargo handling and logistics gameplay? Basically, what they said is they are getting reworked. Okay, the cargo decks are not in a place that they like, but they can't tell us what these changes are yet because it's still a bit too early. Okay, will we be able to log out of beds in our hangars? Okay, the citizen car and goodies pack came with double beds and stuff. More likely you're gonna be placing them in your hangar unless there's another place where you could put these beds. Hint hint, maybe, who knows. But basically they said yes, but they're working on bed logging and logging out in hangars specifically. So again, bed logging is not going anywhere. I said in one of my videos that getting rid of bed logging or making bed logging less important by allowing the player to log out anywhere is a bad idea, and I don't think they should do it. And I stick by that. I think that the only way you can log out of this game successfully for extended period of time should be from the bed because it is the most realistic place. In real life, when you go sleep, it is basically like logging off of real life. So it makes sense to log out of the game from your bed. And if you're not in a bed, you can be looted, you can be attacked. You can't just fall asleep anywhere in the world. That doesn't make any sense. So I think that the best design is to make the bed the only place where you can log out. You have to go to sleep to log out. And basically your real life is just a dream. Real life is a dream. Living in the verse is reality. So you go to sleep to go back to real life. Okay, so 324 PTU originally had one SCU mission boxes able to go into 8 SCU boxes for transport. This was removed before launch. Are there any plans to bring this back? So what CIG said is there are issues, so they took it out. These kind of issues with the mission successfully being completed and whatnot. With the item spawning, This is basically stuff that the developers have to show out. They're still working on it. They may bring it back later. Currently in 3.24, we call our ships in a party member's hangar and our ships spawn in our own personal hangar. Will this change in the future? Answer is yes. We will be able to call our ships from a party member hangar. This is very convenient. Okay, is spawning vehicles from the cargo elevator still planned? Basically, originally, CIG planned to have ground vehicles come up in the cargo elevator so you can load them right on your ship and you won't have to worry about going to a garage to load it. But they kind of took that out. It didn't make it into this patch. So you still have to go to the garages in some hangars. I believe it does work where you can call the ground vehicle from your ship terminal at locations like Orson. They do plan to incorporate that. Can we have an option to remove or disable the alarm? Basically, a lot of people want to change the sound that alarm is at, or customize it in some way. Basically, CIG said that no, not right now. They're kind of talking about that stuff, but they do want to work on making calling your ship faster. I guess maybe if you're calling up a smaller ship, the elevator will come up faster, and if you're calling a larger ship, the elevator might take a little bit longer because of the weight. I'm not entirely sure yet, but throwing around different ideas to adjust that. What's the end goal experience for loading and unloading the Hull series? Okay, right now it is tier 0. I mean, the Hull series, the Hull C is not really working right now. I think it would be very nice to see uh, the cargo decks implemented specifically for these Hull series ships and for docking. So if you have a ship that deals with cargo while docked, then you would go to the cargo deck. So regular players would go to the hangar, and ships like the Hull C would go to the cargo deck. And this cargo deck would be very different than it is now, where the updated cargo deck would more likely be a large area with a bunch of docking ramps coming out of it, kind of like spider legs, and the Hull C's can pull up to these docking rings, and they can walk in and they can buy, trade, sell the cargo there, and then in between would be garage doors that kind of open up, and you have like an MPUV cargo that can take the cargo and put it on there. Again, that's kind of like a complicated system, something that I definitely don't think they would have gotten out in this initial patch. But again, they're still throwing around ideas on how specifically to do it. But I think it would be interesting to have to integrate the cargo decks with the Hull series ships. Okay, what's the current status of the hover trolleys? Okay, CAG said that this patch was going to come with hover trolleys to make it easier to load and unload our ships. It didn't make it in because there was an issue with the physics. Physics were bad, so they had to pull it out, but it will be back later. There are many items that don't work well in the freight elevator, like the prospector mining bags. What's being done to fix this? Well, the packing system needed to be updated for different shapes because they have different pivot points. So their geometry kind of prevented them from being laid out on the cargo grid of the cargo elevator. So some items don't work too well on the cargo elevator grid. This is something that they're working on, and hopefully they'll have it fixed soon. Will we be able to spawn multiple ships at once in the same hangar? The answer is yes. Have you ever considered the ability to name cargo boxes so that we know what's in them when we move stuff? So they basically said yes, they are looking into tags, they are looking to color customization like tints and searchability. So when you go into your inventory, you can search for whatever you named the box, not just it. Right now there are tags when you're searching in your cargo elevator inventory, but if you have a box and you name it something, the system has to recognize that name that you custom typed in. So they'll need to kind of build tech for that. So that is something that they're looking into. So it was a really good episode of Star Citizen Live, and we got a lot of information about hangars, and I'm glad that they went into detail about this, especially right now that the cargo patch has dropped. So really exciting information. This was a longer video. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. That was all the video content. That was all the stuff that I wanted to cover. I know that there's also a lot of other updates coming out around right now. The monthly report looks very interesting. Again, I might leave that for another video. Again, I keep pushing it back, but this video has kind of gone on pretty long, so I think I'm gonna let you guys go here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, there's a lot to cover, so there's gonna be a lot more coverage from me. Things are ramping up as CitizenCon is around the corner, so I expect there to be a lot more news as well. I'm very excited for all the stuff that's coming in, and I think there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff at CitizenCon this year. I think that CIG is planning to present to us 1.0 and what their final vision is for the game. So that is going to be interesting to see. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. Like I always say at the end of these videos, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Salut.